Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar hosted by CauseVox about how to set up no-code integrations on CauseVox. I'm joined today by Jesse Gilchrist, and we are going to get started in a few minutes. Just a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, so you don't need to take copious notes. We will be sending out the recording as well as a slide deck and some links for you to all take along with you while you set up your integration. So just stay on, sit back, relax. If you're enjoying some lunch right now, just take it all in. We would invite you to open up the chat. We want to know where you're from, your name, what you're looking to gain from today's webinar. And if you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to use the Q&A panel at the bottom or the chat function to chat in your questions, and we're going to try to get to all of those at the end of our session today. So again, my name is Jenna. I'm joined by Jesse at Sidekick Solutions, and we're really excited to dive in this integrations webinar because I know integrations can seem so daunting, but really it's actually pretty simple. So yeah, I'm going to open it up and yeah, let us know your name, where you're from. We're so happy that you're here today. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we could also do oh, well, we have some attendees saying hello, 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 Sadikur, and all the way from Bangladesh. Welcome. And Nizar, hello, from California. Okay, I've got some people from all over. Jesse, where are you located?
So I'm in Northwest Washington State, almost about as far northwest as you can get in the continental US.
Nice. How are things there this time of year?
We have hit fall. So we have that crisp fall weather here already, pumpkins, all the fun things. So feels very much like fall around here. A lot of my colleagues are across the United States and many of them still have summer weather, but we have already transitioned to fall where I'm located.
Do you like the fall or what is your favorite season, I guess?
I'm pretty lucky that where I live, we get all 4 seasons. So I don't think I really have a favorite. It's more the fact that I get to experience all of them. It's pretty cool. So I have the mountains on one side of our town and the ocean on the other. So we get all of the seasons. It's pretty cool.
Wow, sounds perfect, picturesque. You got it all.
A little bit, yeah. Feels like it sometimes.
That's great. Do you have any particular fall activity that you do traditionally, or just one thing you're looking forward to in the fall?
Yeah, I think you know, going to a pumpkin patch and picking out a pumpkin with the family is always a family favorite of ours. So looking forward to that here in the next few weeks. Yeah,
pumpkin picking. Yeah, I don't know, everybody else who's joined, feel free to, chat us in with your name, where you're from, and maybe, one fall festivity that you really enjoy. Pumpkin picking is always fun, or those combo farm visits where you've got apple picking, pumpkin patches, maybe a maze, a corn maze. Those are always so fun. So great. Yeah, I guess I'm just going to reiterate some of my housekeeping again. This is a webinar on how to set up no-code integrations on CauseVox, hosted by CauseVox. And I am one of your hosts. My name is Jenna Notar Francesco. I'm an account executive at CauseVox. And I am joined today by Jesse Gilchrist, manager of CRM services at Sidekick Solutions. And so Jesse's going to be taking us through all of the ins and outs of how you can set up a seamless integration from CauseVox with any other really popular tool that's hosted on Zapier. And so, yeah, we're just going to break it down. Maybe you might even be able to, like do some practice alongside, or just take the tools that we give you today and practice your integrations. As always, CauseVox and also Sidekick, our teams are available to assist with these integrations if you have them, if you have any questions. So we're going to be just talking about how you can easily get up and running with your integrations this fall and for year end. And so for those of you who are new, CauseVox is a digital fundraising tool, and we help you raise more with less effort. So we are one of the best tools for growing nonprofits because we offer best-in-class fundraising, from website donation forms and mobile payments to campaign sites like peer-to-peer campaigns and crowdfunding campaigns, and especially your integrations as well. We give you an easy way to report and seamlessly push data from CauseVox into any other popular tool like Bloomerang, Kindful, Salesforce, the Google Suite, Constant Contact and MailChimp, QuickBooks, you name it. You can push your data into those tools seamlessly. And today we're going to talk all about that. We also offer hands-on support. So you get real people on calls, not robots, which is a really great aspect of CauseVox, I think. Really just getting to the point of your call, what you're looking to achieve, and how to get there easily. And then also we offer top-rated fundraising education in the form of guides, templates, webinars like today. We offer them for free, and we just really want to help your nonprofit get up and running seamlessly. We have been known to raise over $100,000 for our nonprofits, over $100,000 in less than 30 days. And again, that's through seamless donation forms, and really just seamless donation forms in the sense that they give the donor the best experience online. They can donate on their phone, on the go, and it's a seamless integration for you as well, the organization. We have pioneered this Pledge Now, Pay Later model, which allows your donor to pledge and sort of auto pledge their payments, so you can optimize for very large gifts year round. And then we also do offer crowdfunding, event ticketing, and peer-to-peer fundraising, and these are all integrated together, so you can drive your users to one page for all of their transactions. So reduce the clunk and the Frankenstein model of fundraising, and really just streamline all of your processes. So again, modernizing your donations. You can add those mobile payments to your form to convert more donors. We've helped organizations double and triple their conversion by just switching to our forms. There's a smart save option on the form as well, in addition to those customizable donation tiers, custom branding, auto receipts that you can also customize, and just covering all your fees. Another really hot topic, of course, is our hands-free peer-to-peer, which I briefly went over, but this is perfect for your Giving Tuesdays, which is coming up, your year-end fundraising, any sort of virtual event or DIY campaign. And you can set them up in literally no time if you have your content. It's really a plug-and-play model, and you're in minutes you can get all of your community engaged. As I had mentioned, Giving Tuesday and year-end. Today, we're focusing on how you can automate your back-end office solutions to save time on admin. So stay tuned. We're going to dive into some really important information so that you can get all of your data this year quickly pushed into all your tools for all your reconciliation and easy admin. And so if you're interested in CauseVox and want to learn more, you can check out our demo page and schedule a live demo with me, a member of our team, and we can talk to you about how CauseVox can be the right solution for your organization and how we can convert more donors for you this year. And with that, I am going to pass it off to Jesse and the team at Sidekick so that we can dive more into all of the integration information for today.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenna. Well, really excited to be here today to talk about no-code integrations with Zapier. So a little bit about us at Sidekick Solutions. We are a Zapier certified expert, and we specialize in system automations for nonprofits. So we have provided technical assistance and support for CRM software for over 10 years. And we are one of the only CRM, or possibly the only Zapier certified expert that specializes in nonprofit automations. So very excited to be here with you today and talk about how you can use CauseVox with Zapier to automate your workflows. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my webcam off at this point so you can focus on the slides, as we are going to be doing some live demos during today's session. Now, we often hear from organizations that the thought of integrating other apps in their tech stack can feel overwhelming or unattainable. And with the right approach to technology adoption and automation, the integration of apps across your organization can really be pain-free and result in considerable gains. Today, we're going to set the stage for what can be accomplished with CauseVox integrations using Zapier. So we're going to explore some common automation opportunities we see for nonprofits, discuss the approach to full system automation. We're going to look at some examples of CauseVox automations, including a demo of how to set one up, and then review our continuous improvement model that we apply for automations using Zapier. We believe that automated integrations are essential to your donor database, and it's common for organizations of all sizes to use many types of software. Now, while a CRM may often serve as a central donor database, organizations often need additional tools for fundraising, email marketing, event coordination. The list really kind of goes on. And integrations are what help connect these systems, creating a tech stack that supports your organization and its strategic goals. Now, there are three primary opportunities for automation in nonprofits that are worth noting. First is eliminating double data entry. Most organizations have a goal of reducing data entry or double data entry, and we believe it should be eliminated. By eliminating the need for double data entry, your organization can free up time and valuable resource and refocus those efforts and that resource on activities that further your mission and drive fundraising. The need to strengthen reporting and improve data quality is another opportunity, because the inability to report on desired metrics or poor data quality present unique opportunities. The automation of data entry improves data quality and, as a result, consistent reporting across your organization, as it removes the potential for human error. Now, a shortage of human capital and resources is a prime opportunity to explore automation and really can expand the reach of your people and your resource. When facing challenges with technology, we often see nonprofits go out and search for a new tool and then adapt their workflow to fit that solution. And this often leads to the square peg and round hole feeling. Instead, we always encourage nonprofits to focus on their mission, strategic plan, and organizational goals, allowing real use cases to drive the adoption of new tools and applications. So if you start by identifying your use case and confirming its alignment with your organizational goals, you then can not only define the experience you want your constituents, your stakeholders to have, but that also will then inform your decision-making and analysis when you go to the marketplace to find the tool that best fits your needs. And obviously that's also integration friendly, as that's the focus of our webinar today. Now, when we talk about integrations, there are two types we should differentiate between: native integrations and custom integrations. Native integrations are often called direct integrations because they're built within your software. And these are often the most user-friendly form of integration and offer a standardized sync of data between two systems. We'd consider these templated integrations, meaning there's little room for customization. The other option is pursuing a custom integration with a platform like Zapier. Zapier is software that enables additional integration opportunities and fundraising opportunities because it's a middleware that sits between the applications you use, helping them talk to each other. Now, I want to do a quick overview of Zapier, as this may not be familiar for everyone who's on the call today. So Zapier is automation software. As I mentioned, it is a middleware that sits between the apps you use, helping them talk to each other. Now, CauseVox has an app in Zapier's marketplace, And what that does is it extends the power of your CauseVox platform by enabling integrations with over 5,000 other applications in Zapier's directory. And if you compound that with the fact that Zapier is designed for anyone to build an integration, you really can design custom solutions on a no-code platform where you don't need a developer or, again, to know lines and lines of code in order to set up your own automation. So if you're interested in seeing what other applications are available on Zapier's marketplace, if you go to zapier.com/apps, you can search for any apps that your organization may be using and see the functionality that's available in each of those apps. You can also browse by different app categories if needed as well. But this is a great page to just have bookmarked if you want to see if the tools you use are currently integration friendly, or if you're exploring different tools to add to your tech stack, you can see if they also are integration friendly on the Zapier platform. Now, you may be wondering why or when to pursue a custom integration using Zapier instead of a native integration. And we see organizations pursue a custom Zapier integration when no native integration exists. Maybe it doesn't align with their organization's use case, or they have a higher level of customization needed. Maybe the desired functionality is not provided in a native integration. Or it could be that they want to link multiple applications together in a single automation. Now, while it's a good practice to explore native integrations first, if one exists, and pursue a Zapier integration if one doesn't, when we're talking about integrations with CauseVox, currently, I believe there aren't any native integrations. So any integration with CauseVox, we're going to be looking at the Zapier platform. But we wanted to provide this overview in case there are other applications you use that have native integrations or that you'd be interested in pursuing custom Zapier integrations for. Now, before we dive into some CauseVox integration use cases, it's important to understand a few key concepts in Zapier first. Zapier is a builder that lets you design integrations using steps, and Zapier integrations are like blocks. Each block is a task in your integration workflow. A single integration workflow is called a zap, and all zaps start with a trigger and then proceed to complete one or many actions. Zaps are a linear flow based on, again, that initial trigger, and then proceeding in that linear manner through those subsequent actions. Zaps can be simple or can be expanded to include multiple steps, multiple applications, filters, paths, conditional logic, and even data transformation and formatting. Now, we're not going to dive into all of these features today, but it's important to note that the basics we're covering today can be enhanced to customize the Zap for your organization's specific use case. Now, a trigger is an event that starts a Zap. When the event happens, the trigger kicks off that Zap or that workflow on the Zapier platform. Each trigger event starts a Zap to run and then completes that subsequent series of actions. For CauseVox integrations, triggers are based on data entry events in CauseVox. So a list of the most common ones here in the CauseVox Zapier app. Now, what is important to note is that if we have a Zap that's triggering on a new donation, if we receive 3 new donations in CauseVox, our Zap will run 3 times, 1 time for each of those new donations. Now, the time it takes for a trigger to run in Zapier or for a trigger to run based off of that event in CauseVox depends on your Zapier plan. But generally, your Zap will trigger to run in less than 5 minutes from the time of the event in CauseVox. Now, an action is an event a Zap performs after it is triggered. It can be helpful to think of an action like a task. If you were to complete the steps of a Zap manually, each step in the Zap would be a task that you'd be required to do. So Zapier is automating that process by completing those same manual steps in an automated way. Each task is an action completed by Zapier. Now, generally speaking, when we're talking about actions for CauseVox integrations, we're talking about activities in other apps. So this could be creating a donation in your CRM, adding or updating your subscriber in an email marketing tool, creating a sales receipt or invoice in your accounting system, or perhaps sending an email or Slack notification to your team, to your staff members. Zapier apps can also include search steps, and these are essential to nearly every app in order to prevent duplication. So a search in Zapier finds an existing record and in some cases may allow for the creation of a new record if none are found. So in CauseVox integrations, searches will be performed in other apps, again, primarily to prevent duplication. So this may be finding a constituent in your CRM, finding a subscriber in email marketing, again, with that intent that we don't want to duplicate records, we want to try and find an existing one first. Now that we know the basics about Zapier and how Zaps are structured, let's take a look at some CauseVox automation use cases. Now, although many nonprofit fundraising tools have their own mass email features, many organizations prefer to send email campaigns through a third-party email marketing platform like MailChimp or Constant Contact. And we find that organizations either manually enter data back and forth from different sources, maybe they run weekly or monthly imports, or they choose to keep the lists exclusive and separate. The goal with an automated integration is to make email marketing efforts more efficient, more timely, and more targeted. So we're going to walk through here a few of the possible integration avenues using MailChimp as an example, but similar workflows can be designed with many different email marketing tools that are available in Zapier's platform. So one of the first possible integration avenues between CauseVox and an email marketing tool like MailChimp would be to do a basic list sync. So every time we have a new donor in CauseVox, we are syncing that individual to MailChimp to essentially seed and ensure that individual is in our audience or in our primary audience in MailChimp. This can be taken to the next level by sending donors to MailChimp with groups, tags, or data in custom fields that allows us to segment our subscribers in MailChimp based on their giving activity. This keeps our data in MailChimp up to date in real time, so we can always log in and send one-off campaigns efficiently without any need to scrub the data or ensure that our audience is reflective of a donor's historical giving patterns. We can go ahead and ensure that's in there through that real-time sync. And the last thing we can do is that we can send donors to MailChimp to trigger different drip campaigns based on donation activity. So perhaps you have an email series you want to trigger based on giving to a specific campaign. Maybe you have an email series targeted at converting one-time donors to recurring donors, or even setting up a lapsed donor recapture series. These are all automations that can be supported through an integration between CauseVox and MailChimp. Now, beyond email marketing, integration with an accounting system is one of the most requested integrations we see for nonprofits. And the goal of an integration with an accounting system is based on a single premise. We want to sync transactions in real time, so fundraising and development are on the same page as accounting and finance. An integration between CauseVox and an accounting software starts when a new donation or installment is created in CauseVox. The automation finds or creates a customer and creates a sales receipt or invoice for the transaction. Now, this workflow can be dynamic, and we often include a step that dynamically codes the sales receipt or invoice with the appropriate account codes based on the campaign the donation was received in CauseVox. With an integration between CauseVox and your accounting software, there's no more double data entry because the data syncs in real time. It often improves reconciliation, makes it a little bit faster and easier, as all of the transactions that have been received in CauseVox are also showing up in your accounting software. You can run reports nearly immediately from both systems. And again, it ensures that your accounting and your development teams have the same data at their fingertips in their corresponding systems. Now, the primary use case we're going to focus on today is integrating CauseVox with your CRM. So many nonprofits that use a CRM turn to a fundraising platform like CauseVox because they want more enhanced fundraising functionality than is available in the standard CRM. And the goal is to sync this data seamlessly from CauseVox into the CRM. A Zapier-enabled integration between CauseVox and your CRM can support a real-time sync of donors and donations, whether this is a one-time donation, a recurring donation, or an installment. And this sync can be as simple or as complex as it needs to be based on your organization's use case and the fields you want to code in your CRM. So in addition to finding or creating a constituent and creating a transaction in your CRM, the solution can dynamically code key transaction fields based on the CauseVox campaign. So in many CRM, these are often called fund, campaign, appeal, approach, purpose. Again, different terminology in every CRM, but essentially those fields that are used to code the fundraising or revenue stream can be coded dynamically based on the specific campaign in CauseVox. This dynamic coding is what makes the solution scalable so that as new fundraising campaigns are launched in CauseVox, you can ensure that they are coded correctly when they reach your CRM. And syncing this transaction and donation activity to your CRM allows you to centralize reporting and save time previously spent performing manual data entry or completing imports between the two systems. Now, we want to give you a demonstration of how easy it is to set up an automation in Zapier. So we're going to build an automation that syncs new donations in CauseVox to Bloomerang. And while Bloomerang is the CRM we chose for today's demo, a similar workflow could be designed for many other CRM that have an app in Zapier's marketplace. Now for the Zap we're going to build, the Zap is going to trigger when a new donation is created in CauseVox. After we find or create our constituent in Bloomerang, we're going to look up the fund, campaign, and appeal in a Google Sheet lookup table using the CauseVox campaign. Again, this is that piece that's going to allow us to dynamically code the donation in Bloomerang based on the campaign the donation was received through in CauseVox. And then our workflow will create a donation in the timeline of our constituent in Bloomerang. Now, this lookup table step we're going to demo today using the Google Sheet. Again, this is what allows our solution to be scalable, and we're going to cover this here in a minute. What this means is that you can use a single Zap in Zapier for all of your fundraising campaigns deployed in CauseVox. If you find the addition of the Google Sheet lookup table in this workflow to be a bit intimidating, you can accomplish the same workflow without the Google Sheet lookup step. The impact is that you'll lose the dynamic transaction coding of the solution. And when we get to the build, I'll show you how you can assign a static value for the fund, campaign, and appeal, which would assign those values for every CauseVox donation, regardless of the campaign it was received through. So that's a bit more simple of a solution, but is one that is viable as well. So we will indicate what that looks like and how that is different. Now, before we actually jump into Zapier and set up our Zap, we actually want to start by setting up our lookup table in Google Sheets. So I'm going to go ahead. I've already got one set up here. So I've got my CauseVox demo Google Sheet here. And we've got 5 columns that are truly needed for the lookup. You can see I've already added my column headers. I've got my CauseVox campaign ID, my campaign name, and then my Bloomerang fund, campaign, and appeal. On the CauseVox side, the only field or data element that we truly need is the campaign ID. This is what's used for the lookup. And when that donation comes in and we look up the campaign ID in this table, it's going to return the fund, campaign, and appeal in the same row. So this is the field that's truly needed, but we often include the campaign name for visibility. as it's a good reference of which campaign this ID is actually related to. The beauty of using the ID for the lookup as well is that if our campaign name were to change, like for example, we caught a typo and we wanted to correct that, the ID on the back end in CauseVox is going to stay the same. So once we get it in our lookup table, because that ID is a system assigned field or a system assigned data element, it's not something we'll need to modify in the future. Now we can locate the campaign ID in in CauseVox by going to the settings for our campaign. So on the CauseVox page, I'm going to go to my campaigns and I'm going to go to settings for the campaign that I want to pull the ID for. Now, right up here in the URL, this is my ID for my campaign. So it's not something that's going to be presented in the settings itself. It's something that you will need to grab from the URL. But let's say I set up a new campaign. I would go and grab that ID and I would type my ID. I'm just typing some random letters here, but I would type my ID here in my lookup table, add my campaign name for reference, and I could then update and assign which fund, campaign, and appeal in Bloomerang should be assigned when I receive a donation to that specific campaign in CauseVox. So the Google Sheet allows you to manage this detail outside of the live Zap and Zapier, and allows you to, again, make this infinitely scalable as you will just add the ID and the campaign and the corresponding Bloomerang details for every new campaign that's created in CauseVox. This also allows you that if you have a coding for your CRM that perhaps has a year element to it, if it needs to be updated year over year, so we transition from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 23, I can just come into my Google Sheet and update my value, and that'll be used and assigned on a go forward basis. So now that we have our Google Sheet set up, I'm actually going to hop over to Zapier, and we are going to walk through setting up the Zap to sync new donations in CauseVox to Bloomerang. So once I'm in Zapier, I'm going to go ahead and click Create Zap from my dashboard. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the workflow starts when a new donation is created in CauseVox. So I'm going to name my Zap up here. New donation in CauseVox. Create donation in Bloomerang. So I'm going to search for and select CauseVox as my app. And for my triggering event, this is where I'm going to choose new donation. I'm going to select my CauseVox account, and we'll cover this here at the end of today's webinar, how to connect CauseVox to Zapier. Now, as a reminder, the trigger prompts the integration to run when that event occurs. So every time a new donation is created in CauseVox, it's going to trigger our Zap. Now, the next step is to test our trigger. And this is going to generate sample data. So Zapier will go and pull the 3 most recently created donations and return them. And what these samples allow us to do is to set up the mapping for our integration. So they're not actually going to run through the integration, as the Zap triggers only run in real time once the Zap is turned on. But pulling in those recent donations allows us to use those data elements to map our integration. Now, once I have my sample and my trigger, the first thing I'm actually going to do in my Zap is use a filter. So this is a Zapier utility, and I'm going to use a filter to filter out donations that were entered manually in CauseVox. So those that are essentially offline donations. And this is an intentional design piece that we typically do because most offline donations are paid by cash, check, donor advised fund, retirement account distribution, etc. And your CRM will often require additional details that may not be required or captured in CauseVox. So our best practice is to filter these out of the donation workflow so that you can manually enter them into CRM and the revenue is not duplicated in your CRM. Now you'll still be able to add them as offline donations in CauseVox to ensure your campaign progress is reflective of all of the donations received to date. But this just ensures that you are not going to receive any errors in Zapier due to incomplete information, and that when you are manually entering those offline donations into your CRM, you are entering all of the required elements for whatever type of payment method was used. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to choose the type. Now, the donation I'm using as an example or is pulled in my sample here actually was an offline donation. But what we're going to do is we're going to say that we only want our Zap to continue if the type does not exactly match manual, meaning if it was entered manually in CauseVox, it's not going to sync through to Bloomerang. I'm going to go ahead and test my filter, and it's going to tell me it would not have continued because my sample that I've pulled in was a manually entered donation. So that's great. It's confirming exactly what we wanted our Zap to do. Now we can still use this transaction to continue to set up the rest of our Zap. Now, after our filter, and I'm actually going to go ahead and rename this, only continue if type is not manual. After our filter, our first action is going to be to search for, so to find our constituent in Bloomerang. And if we don't match an existing constituent, to create a new one. So I'm going to search for and select the Bloomerang Zapier app. And for my event, I'm going to choose Find Constituent. Going to choose my Bloomerang account. Choose the right one there. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and say that the type of constituent I'm creating is an individual constituent. If you collect donations in CauseVox for both companies and individuals, there is advanced functionality in Zapier that can support conditional paths and logic to sync organization and individual donors to Bloomerang as applicable. But for this demo, we're going to focus on just creating individual donor records in Bloomerang. So when I select my type, you can see that I've got fields I can search or I can map to for searching for my existing constituent. So I'm going to go ahead, and when I click in this field, it's going to pull up the data that's returned by my recent steps, by my trigger or my preceding actions in Zapier. And so this operates really similarly to a mail merge, if you're familiar with that functionality. So I'm going to search for, and it's returned here first, and I'm just going to click to map the first name field from my trigger. Now, again, every time our trigger runs, it's going to return the data element related to that transaction that is in this field. So I've got my first name. I'm going to search for my last name. You can also search for the field as well. I'm going to map my address. Line 1. I'm going to map my phone. Do I have a phone? Actually, I think my donation page I'd set up didn't have a phone number, so we can leave phone blank. For Bloomerang, we need first name, last name, and at least one piece of contact information. So having address and email will suffice for that. Now for Bloomerang, we're going to skip over these two options to include cumulative giving or household information. It's not relevant to our workflow, so we can just leave those blank. Now down here at the bottom, we don't want to just search for an existing constituent. If an existing one isn't found, we actually want to create a new one. So we are going to check the box down here that says create a Bloomerang constituent if it doesn't exist yet. And this is going to present me with a series of additional fields that I can map to for if I don't match to an existing constituent. So again, mapping things like my name. And I'm going to come down to my address information. And you can map multiple data elements to a single field if needed. So it doesn't have to be a one-to-one. You can map, and you can also type in or hard code data as well if needed. not as relevant here on the constituent record, but is something we can cover when we get to the donation itself. Zip code, not my country. Again, I'm going to choose my email. Perfect. Okay, so I've mapped my information that I want to map for if I am going to create a new constituent, if an existing one is not found. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here, and I'm going to click continue. And similar to our trigger where we can test our trigger, we can also test our action. And so this is going to go ahead and try to search for an existing constituent in Bloomerang. And if one is not found, it's going to create a new one. So it's going ahead and it's testing my action, again, allowing me to confirm that I have mapped to all of my required fields. And we can see that it was a successful action. Otherwise, it would have returned an error message. Now you can see that every action that I test is returning a full payload of data, similar to how we have coming in from the trigger in CauseVox. In this payload of data, there's an element in this that we are going to use when we create the donation of Bloomerang. So just note, we're going to come back around to this. But it's important to remember that every action in Zapier is also going to return a payload of data that can be used in subsequent steps in the workflow. Now, before we create our donation in Bloomerang, the next thing we need to do is to look up our Bloomerang coding in our Google Sheet. So I'm going to add another action in my Zap. And I'm going to look up Google Sheets. And my event that I'm going to use, or my action, is that I'm going to look up a spreadsheet row. I've already connected my Google Sheets account to Zapier. And then here is where I will set up my lookup. So I'm going to tell Zapier exactly which spreadsheet I want to look to, which is my CauseVox Zapier Automations G Sheet demo. And then exactly which worksheet within that spreadsheet I want to use. I'm then going to identify which column I'm looking up against. And so we are going to look up using the CauseVox campaign ID. So again, we're going to look up in this column. This is how we're identifying which row we want to return in our Zap. And then in the lookup value, this is where I'm going to map the campaign ID from CauseVox. So this again is going to allow me to say, if the campaign ID is this value, all the donation coming in from CauseVox, we are going to return all the data for that row. And it returns the data in each column as a separate data element that we can map in subsequent steps. Now, one setting I typically do when I'm setting up this lookup table is I usually choose bottom up. I set it to true so that as my new campaigns are added to the bottom of my lookup table, Zapier is going to be smart and look from the bottom of my sheet up, as the newer campaigns will be at the bottom and likely more donations will be related to those campaigns. Now, this lookup spreadsheet row is a search like our find constituent action, but in this case, we don't want to create a new row if one isn't found. So we're going to leave this blank. We're not going to check that box. Now you can see when I test this action, it's going to return all the data that's in each column of that matched row. So it matched to my row 2 in my lookup table and returned each of these cells as a data element that I can map. Now, one other formatting conversion we need to do before we create our donation in Bloomerang is that the CauseVox Zapier apps provides the date of the transaction in the UTC time zone. So we want to set up a formatter step to not only convert the time zone from UTC to, let's say, Eastern, but we also want to remove the timestamp. So we're going to go ahead and add a new action. And we're going to use another utility in Zapier called Formatter. So we're going to use Format right here. And for our event, we're going to choose date and time. For our transform, we are not going to add or subtract or compare. We are just reformatting a date. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to map in our input, we are going to map our created date. And you can see our from format, we don't actually need to put anything there. Zapier will automatically identify and interpret the incoming data format. Our from time zone is UTC, which is correct, but this is where up here in these two format and two time zone, we can define which time zone we want to convert it to, and also the format that we want to return our data in. So for Bloomerang, we want year, month, day, and we want to make sure we're in the Eastern time zone. So I'm going to go ahead and similar to our other steps, I'm going to test my action because it's going to give me the output I'll need when I map to my create donation action. See right here. So now that we have found or created our constituent, we've looked up our Bloomerang coding in our Google Sheet, and we formatted our date. Now we're ready to create our donation in Bloomerang. So I'm going to choose Bloomerang. We're going to create our donation. Choose my Bloomerang account. Now, as I mentioned, we were going to need something returned from our find or create constituent step on the donation record, and it's this field right here. And this is common for many CRM. Donations typically in a CRM are not a floating object, meaning they need to be tied to an account or a constituent. So most Zapier apps for CRM will have this field on a donation record where it lists all of the constituents in your database. Now, we don't want to hard code this and say all donations are being assigned to a single account. We want this to be dynamic based on our prior find or create constituent action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose custom mapping. And from my find or create constituent step right here, I'm going to map the ID of the constituent that was found or created. So that ensures that this donation, when it's created in my CRM, is assigned directly to that constituent that I found or created. Now for the date, we aren't going to map the created date from our new donation trigger. We're going to map the formatted date coming out of our formatter step. I'm going to choose my method. I'm going to map the amount coming from CauseVox. And then for fund campaign and appeal, again, similar to what we did for the constituent, it's going to give me the list of all of the values that are in my Bloomerang database right now, but I want to do custom mapping. And from my lookup step, I want to map my fund, my campaign, and my appeal. So again, using that Google Sheet is a way to ensure that this is dynamic and that based off of the campaign the donation was to in CauseVox, and that preceding step that looks up the Bloomerang coding, it's going to ensure we're assigning those correct values. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't want to use the Google Sheet lookup table and you prefer to assign the same revenue coding to all of the donations in your CRM, you can, instead of doing the custom mapping, you could truly just select from these drop downs the corresponding value that you want to assign. So that would make it, that's what we call hard coding, or a statically assigned value, where every donation that's being created in our Zap is getting the same value. But for our demo today, again, we want the dynamic scalable solution. So we are going to dynamically code or dynamically map those fields. Now, if there's a note field, we can pull in our comment from our CauseVox donation. And then based off of your CRM, you may have fields to identify the source of the transaction. Maybe you want to map the ID for that transaction as well as a reference in the two systems. You can identify if this is an anonymous donation. So again, lots of different elements you could track for your transaction into that CRM. Every CRM is going to have different fields on that donation or that transaction record. And which fields you map to, again, some are likely going to be required and others may be optional and you can map to at your discretion. So at this point, we then could go ahead and we could test our action and watch that transaction sync into our CRM and confirm. Oh, I went ahead and mapped to a custom field here that didn't have corresponding value. So again, little example there where Zapier will tell you if something doesn't align with your data entry practices for your CRM. But being able to test this step, again, will allow you to see that record created in your CRM and confirm that once it does get written to your CRM, the transaction looks as you intend it would. So you can go ahead and then review that. Now that's kind of the end-to-end demo for setting this up. There are some optional features that can be added often for your CRM. So for example, I'll pull over one I already have set up here. If we had wanted to, we could add another filter to only continue our Zap if our constituent had been found up here in our Find Create Constituent action. And if it had been found, we could choose to update our constituent with the address, phone, email provided through our CauseVox donation. So again, a way to ensure we have updated contact information on our constituent in our CRM. That really comes down to more of an organizational preference. But the reason for this filter, if you're wondering why we have a filter before this update constituent action, is to preserve task usage or the amount of data syncing through Zapier. So we're only making sure that we're taking these additional steps if the constituent or the donor actually matched to a constituent in our CRM. Now in the slides that will be available after the webinar as well, there are screenshots of all of this. Now the next step is getting started. So the first step is really signing up for a Zapier account if you don't have one already. So Zapier begins with a 14-day free trial of the professional tier functionality. And following the free trial, your plan is actually converted to a free plan until you choose to upgrade. Most organizations will need to upgrade to the starter plan at a minimum in order to build multi-step Zaps. So the actual free plan in Zapier only allows for single-step Zaps, which is a pretty simple use case. Most organizations require at minimum the starter plan or higher based off of volume. Now it's important to also remember that Zapier provides a 15% discount to nonprofits. So when you do sign up for a paid plan, make sure to apply for the discount. And I'm going to go ahead and send both of these links here in the chat so you can grab these if you'd like to. The second link in there is the page to go ahead and apply for the nonprofit discount. Now, once you sign up for Zapier, the next step is to connect your CauseVox account. So when you connect CauseVox in Zapier, we would go back here and I'll show you. Go to My Apps in Zapier and click the blue Add Connection button. And we would just search for CauseVox. And it will give us a pop-up window where we'll be prompted to provide our API key. So the API key can be found under Settings and then in Integrations and Zapier and CauseVox. So I'm going to go ahead and send them. There is a good support article on CauseVox's knowledge base on how to connect to Zapier. So I'm going to go ahead and send that in the chat as well. But that API key is something you'll pull again from your settings. It's something that should be kept secure, but is what is required to connect to your CauseVox account to Zapier. After you connect CauseVox to Zapier, it's really time to explore. So again, you can go to zapier.com/apps to see what apps are available in the marketplace. There's a whole lot of help resources. And then also the other thing I want to point out is that in Zapier, if you go to the apps page and you search for CauseVox, there are some integration templates already available that you could copy to get started with right away. So most apps in Zapier will have templates that are available that you can copy that have some common workflows that you can go ahead and click on and go ahead and click try it, and it'll get you started on those workflows in Zapier. So again, that link is right here in the slide deck as well. When we think about integrations, it's helpful to think of it as stacking bricks. Once you have one automation in place, you level up to the next layer and so on. And the journey to system automation is never really over. As more use cases require automation or other apps are added to your organization's tech stack, you may need to continue improving and expanding the solutions integrated across your organization. Now, it really has been my pleasure today to provide a glimpse of what's possible with CauseVox and Zapier integrations. If you would like help working with a consultant to support you in setting up your integrations, or even just to explore your use case and tech stack, you can always reach out to us at Sidekick Solutions. We're happy to answer any questions that you have, whether it is with CauseVox or other apps you're using in your organization's tech stack. Again, we are Zapier certified experts, specializing in nonprofits, so our door is truly always open. So I think now, Jenna, if we have any questions, if there's any, we can tackle those now, or we can go ahead and wrap up a couple minutes early.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Jessie, for this very thorough demo. Really, really great work. And I hope that was beneficial to everyone. I think we had one question answered through the chat, but if anybody remaining on the call has any questions, you can chat them in now. Otherwise, if you have any questions that come up, you can always email support@causevox.com. And again, if you wanted to book that free demo, you can use our scheduling site, causevox.com/schedule a demo, and we'd be happy to chat with you. But outside of that, yeah, I guess we can wrap up a couple minutes early. Thank you again so much, Jessie. This has been really wonderful. And thanks to everyone again, and enjoy the rest of your day.